The sex maniac. Sex is a subtle, delicate subject. Centuries of exploitation, corruption, perverted ideas, and conditioning are associated with the word sex. The word is too loaded. It is one of the most loaded words there is. Saying God sounds empty. Saying sex sounds pretty loaded. 1,001 things arise in the mind: fear, perversion, attraction, a tremendous desire, and also a tremendous anti-desire. All come together. The very word sex causes confusion, chaos. It is like if someone threw a stone into a pool of calm waters and millions of ripples. Just the word sex. Humanity has been living under very wrong ideas. Have you ever noticed that at a certain age, sex becomes important? Not that the individual makes it important, it's not something you make happen, it just happens. Around 14 years, energy is suddenly flooded with sex, as if the floodgates had been open at the young man. Subtle sources of energy that weren't yet in action open up, and all the energy becomes sexual, colored with sex. The young person thinks about sex, sings sex, has sex, and everything becomes sexual. Every act is colored. It happens, nobody does anything to make it happen. It's natural. Transcendence is also natural. If sex is experienced in its entirety, without condemnation, without no idea of getting rid of it, so then, just like at age 14 the floodgates open and all the energy becomes sexual, around age 42 these floodgates close again. And that it is also as natural as sex becoming active. It's the moment when they vanish. Sex is not transcended by any effort on the part of the individual. If he does, any effort will be repressive, as it has nothing to do with the individual. Sex is inherent to the body, to biology. Man was born a sexual being. There is nothing wrong with that. This is only way to be born. To be human is to be sexual. When anyone is conceived, the mother and the father are not praying. They don't listen to some sermon from the priest, nor are they in the church. They are making love. Even to think that your own mother and your own father were making love, when was designed, seems to be difficult for anyone. They were making love. Their energies, sexual relationships were coming together and merging with each other. And then, in a deep sexual act, the individual was conceived. The first cell was a sex cell, and then from that cell, other cells appeared. However, each cell remains sexual, basically. The body of man as a whole is sexual, made up of sex cells. Now they are millions. Remember, if you exist as a sexual being, once you accept that, the conflict that has been created over the centuries will dissolve. Once you accept it deeply, with no ideas in between, when the sex is seen as something simply natural, you will be able to live it. No one asks me how one transcends eating, nor how does one transcend breathing, because no religion teaches the man to transcend the breath, that's why. Otherwise, someone might ask, how transcend breathing? Man breathes. Man is an animal that breathes in addition to being a sexual animal. But there is a difference. 14 years of your life at the beginning are practically not sexual, or, at the most, rudimentary sexual play that is not really sexual, but just preparations, rehearsals, that's all. At 14, the energy suddenly matures. Watch. A child is born. Immediately, within 3 seconds, the child has to breathe, otherwise she dies. So, the breath must remain throughout the life of that being, for it is part of the first stage of life. It cannot be transcended. Maybe before dying, just 3 seconds before, breathing stops, but not before that. Always remember, both extremes of life, the beginning and the end, are exactly similar, symmetrical. The child is born and starts breathing in 3 seconds. When it gets old and about to die, when stop breathing, in 3 seconds, you'll be dead. Sex enters a very late stage. For 14 years, the child lives without sex, and if the society is not very repressed and therefore obsessed with sex, a child can live completely oblivious to the fact that sex, or anything like sex, exists. The child can remain absolutely innocent. However, This innocence is also not possible when the people are very repressed. When there is repression, there is also an obsession. Both live side by side. And so the priests go on repressing, and there are also the anti-priests, Hefners. Hugh Hefner was founder of Playboy magazine, and others, who continue to create more and more pornography. Therefore, on the one hand, there are the priests who go on repressing, and on the other, there are the anti-priests who go on making sexuality more and more glamorous. Both coexist, as they are elements of the same coin. Only when churches disappear is it that Playboy magazines disappear, not before. They are business partners. They look like enemies, but don't be fooled by it. They speak against each other, but that's how the things work. I heard about two men who were broke, had gone bankrupt, and therefore they had decided to start a business, a very simple business. They started a journey, traveling from one city to another. First, one of them arrived and during the night, threw tar on the doors and windows of people. After 2 or 3 days, the other came to clean up. It advertised that it could clean any kind of tar, or anything that went wrong, and cleaned the windows. Meanwhile, the other was doing half the business in another city. In this way, they started to earn a lot of money. This is what happens between the church and the Hugh Hefners and people who create pornography continuously. See this example. The beautiful Miss Canine sat in the confessional. "Father," she said, "I want to confess that I let my boyfriend kiss me." "Is that all you guys did?" asked the priest, very interested. "Well, no. I let him put his hand on my leg too." "And then what else?" "And then I let him pull down my panties. And then my mother came into the room." "Oh, damn it," sighed the priest. "They work together. They are partners in a conspiracy. Whenever the individual is very repressed, energy begins to find a perverted interest. A perverted interest is the problem, not the sex. Now this priest is neurotic. Sex is not the issue, but this man is in trouble. The nuns Margaret Alice and Frances Catherine were walking down a side street. Suddenly they were grabbed by 2 men, dragged into a dark alley and raped. "Father, forgive them," Sister Margaret Alice said, "for they don't know what they're doing." "Shut up," shouted Sister Catherine. "This one knows. This is meant to be that way." Therefore, the individual must never convey to his mind a only idea that is against sex. Otherwise, you will never be able to transcend it. People who transcend sex are people who accept it naturally. It is difficult because being human being is born into a neurotic society in relation to sex. Either way, it is neurotic in the same way. Although it's very difficult to get out of this neurosis, if you stay a little alert, anyone can get out of it. So the question is not how to transcend sex, but how to transcend this perverted ideology of society. This fear of sex, this repression of sex, this obsession with sex. Sex is beautiful. Sex itself is a natural rhythmic phenomenon. It happens when the child is ready to be conceived, and it is good that this happens. Otherwise, life would not exist. Life exists through sex. Life is its means. One who understands life, he who loves life, knows that sex is sacred, holy. Consequently, live sex, have pleasure with it, and, as naturally as it came, it leaves of its own volition. At 42 years or so, sex begins to fade, as naturally as it came. But it doesn't happen that way. You must have been surprised when I said about 42 years old. Everyone knows people who are 70, 80 years old and who haven't gone beyond that. Everyone knows old perverts. They are victims of society. They weren't allowed to be natural. It's a symptom, for they repressed when they should have enjoyed and delighted themselves. In those moments of pleasure, they were not fully present. They weren't orgasmic. They were indifferent. Per this, whenever the individual is indifferent to anything, it persists longer. This is my thought. People who have lived fairly, with love, naturally, around 42 years of age, they begin to transcend sex. For those who didn't live the way natural and have been fighting sex, the age of 42 turns out to be the most dangerous moment, because when you reach that age, your energies are declining. When you're young, You don't characterize it as a problem to repress something, since the young person is very energetic. Here's the irony of fact. A young person can repress sexuality very easily because he has the energy to do so. He can simply lower it and sit on it. When the energies are fading and they decline, sex will assert itself and the individual will not be able to control it. See the following anecdote. Stein, 65, visited the office of his son, Dr. Stein, and asked for something to increase his sexual potency. The doctor gave the father an injection and then refused to let him pay. However, Stein insisted on giving his son $10. A week later, Stein was back for another injection, and this time he gave his son $20. But Dad, the injections are only $10. Take it, Stein insisted. The 10 extras are from your mother, and it goes on. So, before you become the father and mother of the anecdote, please end this in time. Don't expect to get old, because then things get ugly. Then everything comes out of season. Why are people so fascinated by pornography? It must be religious education, Sunday school in the United States. Otherwise, no, there would be a need to be interested in pornography. When the individual is against reality, begins to make use of the imagination. The day when religious education disappears from the face of the earth, pornography will die. It cannot die before. This seems very paradoxical. Magazines like Playboy exist only for the support of the Vatican. Without the Pope, there will be no Playboy magazine. It cannot exist. There won't be any reason for its existence. The priest is behind this. Why should anyone be interested in pornography when people live and colors are present? And it's so beautiful to see flesh and blood people. Who is interested in the photo of a bare tree? After all the trees are bare. Just do one thing. Cover all the trees so that sooner or later you can find magazines circulating clandestinely, magazines with bare trees. And people will read them, put them inside their Bibles, look at their pages and enjoy them. Try it and see. Pornography can only disappear when people accept their nudity naturally. Nobody wants to see cats and dogs and lions and naked tigers in pictures, but they're naked. In fact, when a dog passes by someone, that person doesn't even think about the situation, namely the fact that the dog is naked. It is heard that there are some ladies in England who cover their dogs with clothes. They have fear that nudity might bother some religious and chaste soul. Bertrand Russell wrote in his autobiography that in his childhood in the Victorian era, even the legs of the chairs were covered, because they were legs. Just let the man be natural and pornography disappears. Let people getting naked, not that they have to sit naked in offices. There's no need to go so far away. However, on the beaches, on the rivers, or when people are at ease, relaxing in their homes, resting in the sun in their gardens, they must be naked. Let the children play naked around naked father and mother. Pornography will disappear. Who will look at the magazine Playboy? And for what? Something is being deprived. Some natural curiosity is being deprived. Hence pornography. Get rid of the priest inside you, say goodbye. And then suddenly we'll notice that pornography will disappear. It is necessary to annihilate the priest in his unconscious, so that you perceive a great change in your being. Men will become more united. A salesman on a business trip was in a hotel for the night when found a Bible at the head of the bed. On the first page was the inscription, "If you are sick, read page 42. If you are concerned about your family, read page 68. If you are lonely, read page 92. He was lonely, so he turned to page 92 and read what was written. When it ended, he noticed that at the bottom of the page were handwritten words. If you're still lonely, call 62485 and ask to call Gloria. If enlightenment and ecstasy seem to be so close, and Buddhahood just one step away, then why do men behave like grumpy gorillas when you are with your girlfriends? When being with the girlfriend, all men behave like a gorilla. Otherwise, the girlfriends would be very frustrated. The more a man behaves like a gorilla, the more satisfied they are. Just observe. Man's behavior as a gorilla represents so much pleasure that no girlfriend will go astray. If the man behaves so gentlemanly, the girlfriend will be very frustrated. However, the state of enlightenment is still one step away from the gorilla. Makes no difference wherever man is, for enlightenment is always at a constant distance of one step. I just need to get out of the gorilla to reach it. Sometimes it's easier to get out of the gorilla. After all, who wants to be a gorilla? It's harder when it comes to former President Ronald Reagan or Prime Minister, or the richest man in the world. It's harder to get out of these roles because all of these are performed on stage in the theater of life. The state of enlightenment becomes easier when the individual is playing a role that you don't like. He hates it with all his strength, but because of his girlfriend, he has to play the paper. The girlfriend is also trying to play her role, but it will be very difficult to contain two gorillas in a bed. And that's why the man made the woman act like a lady, eyes closed, lying practically swooning, so that he could jump like a gorilla all over the bed. But nobody likes the role. It would be good for the man to have a fixed camera to film himself at the moment he's behaving like a gorilla. Then, when viewing the recording, would feel quite ashamed. What am I doing? What kind of an idiot am I? It's good to let people turn off the light. And the whole society in the past was against people making love outdoors, on the beach or in the park. Every society in the past was very against it for the simple reason that anyone who behaved like a gorilla on the beach would make every man remember at the beach that, this is what I'm doing too. The only difference is that I do it in the night darkness. But the distance between being a gorilla and the state of enlightenment is only a single step, in that the individual becomes aware of the action and escapes it just as a snake slips from your old skin. Jump out of bed and become a Buddha. Tonight, try it. Right in the middle of being a gorilla, immediately jump out of bed, sit in position lotus and become a Buddha, and I promise you, your girlfriend will have more pleasure and stay longer happy. Finally, you understand something. And many people will find it a surprising fact that the distance is so small. Individual can become a gorilla in his sleep, can become a president in his sleep, can become the richest man in your dream. But these are all dreams. In fact, when someone becomes a gorilla in their sleep, it becomes a nightmare. All love affairs turn into nightmares. And getting out of the nightmare also seems to be very difficult, but people they just try to wake up when dreams start to turn into nightmares. If the dream's still sweet, beautiful, who's going to want to wake up? It's good that everyone recognized one thing, that man behaves like a gorilla. This is of great understanding. So tonight, take the first step into the state of ecstasy, and tomorrow morning everyone will realize that this man who used to be a gorilla acquired the state of enlightenment. Miracles still happen. What is the difference between normal sex and tantric sex? The normal sex act and the tantric sex act are basically different. The normal sex act is to relieve. It's like having a good sneeze. The energy is thrown out, and the person feels relieved. It's destructive. It's not creative. It's good. It's therapeutic. It helps to be relaxed, nothing more. Tantric sex is basically diametrically opposite and different. It's not for relief, isn't it, to throw energy away? It's to remain in the act without ejaculation, without throwing energy out. It's to remain in the act in an integrated way, only in the initial part of the act, and not in the final part. This changes the quality, which becomes complete and therefore different. It's good to understand two things. There are two types of climax, two types of orgasm. A type of orgasm is known. You reach a peak of excitement and then you can't go any further. The end has arrived. The excitement reaches a point where it becomes involuntary. The energy jumps into the individual and leaves. He is free of energy and feels relieved. The load has been dropped, and the individual can relax and sleep. Orgasm is being used as a tranquilizer. It's a natural tranquilizer. Then a good night's sleep comes, if the person's mind is not oppressed by religion. Case otherwise, even the tranquilizer is destroyed. If the mind is not oppressed by religion, only then can sex be reassuring. The one who feels guilty will even have his disturbed sleep. You'll feel depressed, you'll start to condemn yourself, in addition to taking oaths of that now he will no longer give in and enjoy sex. Later, your sleep will turn into a nightmare. Sex can only be used as a tranquilizer for that individual who is a being, natural without much oppression of religion and morality. This is a kind of orgasm which reaches a peak of excitement. Tantra is centered on another kind of orgasm. If the first type of orgasm was called peak orgasm, it could call the tantric orgasm the valley orgasm. It does not reach the peak of excitement, but the deepest valley of relaxation. Excitement has to be used by both in the beginning, and so that I say that in the beginning, they are the same thing, but the ending is totally different. Arousal needs to be used for both, either to go toward peak arousal or to the valley of relaxation. For the first, the excitement has to be intense, increasingly intense. The individual has to grow in it and help it grow towards the peak. In the second, the excitement, it's just a start. And once the man has reached it, both the lover and the beloved can relax. No movement is required. The couple can relax in a hug. Loving. Only when the man feels, or the woman, that the erection is about to decrease is there the need for a little movement and excitement. But then it relaxes again. One can prolong this deep embrace for hours without ejaculation, and then both can fall asleep deep together. That's a valley orgasm. Both are relaxed and meet as two relaxed beings. In ordinary sexual orgasm, the couple meets as two excited beings, that is, tense, full of enthusiasm, trying to unload. Ordinary sexual orgasm looks like a madness, while tantric orgasm is a deep relaxing meditation. Some may not be aware of this, but this is a fact of biology, or rather of bioenergy. Men and women are opposing forces. These forces, called negative-positive, yin-yang, or any other denomination you like, are defying each other. And when both find themselves in deep relaxation, both revitalize each other. Revitalize each other, they become generators, they feel more alive, they become radiant with new energy, and nothing is lost. A union with the opposite pole is enough for the energy to be renewed. The act of tantric love can be done as many times as you like. The ordinary sex act cannot be done as much as you want, because of the loss of energy it causes in the body, that consequently it will take some time to retrieve it. And when the body recovers the energy, ends up losing it again. It sounds absurd. A whole life is spent in winning and losing, recover and lose. It's like an obsession. The second thing to remember, some people may have already noticed that animals they never get to enjoy the act of sex. In the sexual intercourse of animals they have no pleasure. Look for baboons, monkeys, dogs, or any kind of animals. In their sexual act it's not possible to realize that they are feeling pleasure, or that they are enjoying the act. It is simply impossible. It seems to be a purely mechanical act, a natural force that pushes them towards him. If anyone has ever seen sex between monkeys, they must have noticed that they eventually split up. And to looking at her features, you don't see ecstasy in them. It's like nothing happened. When the energy it forces itself, when the energy is in excess, the animals expel it. The ordinary sex act is just like that. But moralists say the opposite. Don't involve, not like. It's like the animals do. It's wrong. Animals never enjoy, only man can enjoy. And the deeper man can enjoy, the higher the species of humanity that is born. And if sex becomes meditative, enraptured, it will be possible to touch the level higher. But remember Tantra. It's a valley orgasm, not a peak experience. It's an experience worth it. In the West, Abraham Maslow made this term peak experience very famous. The individual enters an arousal process that walks towards the peak and then falls. It's because after every sexual act, there is a sensation of falling. And that's natural. You fall off a peak. It will never be possible to have the same feeling after a tantric sex experience. This one does not have the feeling of falling. You cannot fall any further because the individual is in the valley. Instead, he is going up. Upon return, after the act of tantric sex, it appears that the individual went up, not down. The couple feels full of energy, with more vitality, more vivacity, more radiant. And that ecstasy will last for hours and hours, and even days and days. It depends on the degree of depth that each one manages to reach. When moving, sooner or later, the man will realize that ejaculation is a waste of energy. There is no need for that, unless the couple needs children. And with a tantric sex experience, it is possible to feel a deep relaxation all day long. A single tantric experience is enough for you to feel relaxed even for several days, at ease, at home, non-violent, no irritation, no depression. And that kind of person is never a danger to others. If you can, will help others to be happy. If you can't, at least it won't make anyone unhappy. Only Tantra can create a new man, and that man, who can come to know the timelessness, the absence of self-centeredness, and a profound non-duality with existence, will grow.